Have you ever had a moment when you knew exactly what you needed to do, but you just didn't do it? You had the idea, the plan, the vision, but no movement. And deep down, that silence in your soul whispered, why can't I just take action? You're not lazy, you're not broken, you're just human. Because every one of us has a war inside between the part of us that craves comfort and the part that's hungry for more. The problem isn't that you don't know what to do. The problem is you haven't learned how to make yourself do it. And until you master that, your dreams stay in your head, not in your hands. But today, right here, right now, that changes. Today, you're going to learn how to force yourself to take action even when you don't feel ready, even when fear screams louder than courage. Because the truth is, action doesn't wait for motivation. Motivation is born from action. You see, everything we do in life, every single action or hesitation, every decision to move forward or hold back comes down to one simple truth. We're driven by pain and pleasure. That's it. Those two forces control more of your life than you probably realize. You don't get out of bed because you love mornings. You get out of bed because the pain of being late outweighs the comfort of the sheets. You don't work out because you love sweating. You do it because the pain of staying the same is finally greater than the pain of change. Once you truly understand that, you can begin to use it to your advantage. The problem for most people is they've wired their brains to link pleasure to the very things that destroy them and pain to the very things that could change their lives. You know what I mean. Someone says they want to start that business, but when they think of doing it, they picture the effort, the risk, the uncertainty. That's pain. So they stay where it's comfortable. Another person says they want to get in shape, but they link pain to the workout, not to staying unhealthy. So what happens? They don't take action. But here's the truth. Pain and pleasure aren't real until you decide what they mean. They're just signals. You're the one who assigns them power. You're the one who decides what's painful and what's pleasurable. And when you can consciously attach massive pain to inaction and massive pleasure to progress, you'll find yourself moving automatically. You won't have to push yourself anymore. You'll be pulled by something stronger. So ask yourself right now, what's the real cost of staying where you are? If you don't change, if you keep procrastinating, if you keep hesitating, what does that mean for your future? What does it mean for your family, your finances, your confidence, your spirit? Feel it. Don't just think about it. Let that pain sink in. Because if you truly associate pain to being stuck, you'll never stay there again. And now flip it. What's the pleasure, the power, the joy you'll experience when you finally take action, when you finally move? Picture it vividly. See the version of you who decided to stop waiting. Feel what it's like to live with momentum, with energy, with pride. Feel the certainty that comes from knowing you made yourself move when it wasn't easy. That feeling, that's pleasure. And the more you attach pleasure to progress, the more your mind starts craving it. The truth is, most people don't lack motivation. They lack emotional leverage. They haven't trained themselves to feel the right kind of pain. They're too busy avoiding the short-term discomfort that could give them long-term freedom. If you can learn to flip that, if you can learn to feel more pain staying the same than you do taking the leap, your entire behavior changes instantly. You'll pick up the phone, you'll start the project, you'll hit the gym, you'll do whatever it takes because you've rewired the emotional equation that drives all action. And I know what you're thinking, but how do I do that? You start by getting honest. Stop sugarcoating where you are. If you're not happy with your results, feel the truth of that. Don't escape it, don't numb it, don't distract yourself from it. Let it burn a little. That's the pain that wakes you up. Then take that pain and link it directly to the behaviors that keep you stuck. Say to yourself, if I don't take action, I'll keep living like this. Make it real. Make it hurt. Because when it hurts enough, you'll change. Then condition your mind daily to link pleasure to the actions that create growth. Celebrate progress. Reward yourself when you move forward. Visualize success not as a fantasy, but as an emotional reality that feels better than anything you've ever known. Soon, your brain will start chasing that pleasure automatically, without resistance. You want to know how to force yourself to take action? You make inaction unbearable. You make progress irresistible. You train your mind and body to believe that staying where you are is far more painful than taking the next step. That's when everything changes. That's when you stop waiting for motivation and start creating it. Because when you master pain and pleasure, you master yourself. And when you master yourself, there is nothing you can't make happen. Let me tell you something powerful. You can't think your way into action. You've got to move your way into it. People sit around waiting for motivation to strike like lightning, hoping one morning they'll wake up suddenly inspired, ready to change everything. But it doesn't work like that. You can't wait to feel ready. Because the truth is, if you wait until you feel like it, you'll wait your entire life. Everything changes the moment you learn to change your state. Because your state, your emotional and physical energy in a given moment, is what determines whether you act or hesitate, whether you speak up or stay silent, whether you step forward or pull back. You can have all of the strategies, all the knowledge, all the plans in the world, but if your state is low, you won't do a damn thing with them. You'll think, you'll analyze, you'll doubt, but you won't move. Think about it. When you're exhausted, slumped over, breathing shallow, head down, your mind doesn't think big thoughts, does it? You think small, you think safe, you think maybe later. But when you change your body, when you stand tall, move with power, breathe deeply, and shift your focus, everything changes. In an instant, your energy rises, your thoughts expand, your confidence returns, you start to believe again. And when that state changes, action follows naturally. Because emotion is created by motion. That's not just a nice phrase, it's a law of human behavior. You move differently, you feel differently. You breathe with power, you think it with power. Every great breakthrough you've ever had came after you changed your state. Maybe it was a moment when you said, that's it, I'm done living like this. That feeling, that fire, it wasn't random. You changed your energy, and your energy changed your life. Most people live in reaction. They let the outside world dictate how they feel inside. Someone cuts them off in traffic, they're angry all day. Someone praises them, they feel good for a moment, but they never learn how to master their own internal state. They never learn how to flip that switch from stuck to unstoppable on demand. The truth is, you have that power. You can change how you feel in a heartbeat. And when you can change how you feel, you can change what you do. So how do you do it? Start with your body. Your physiology is the fastest path to power. Stand up, stretch your chest, breathe deep, move with intention. Shake off the old energy. Create a physical pattern that tells your nervous system, I'm alive, I'm ready, I'm in charge. You don't have to believe it at first. Your body will teach your mind to catch up. Because when your body leads, your mind follows. Next, change your focus. Whatever you focus on, you feel. Focus on what's missing, what's wrong, what you can't control, and you'll feel powerless. Focus on what's working, on what's possible, on what you can do, and you'll feel empowered. It's that simple. Most people live in a state of what if it goes wrong, instead of what if this changes everything. You choose where to put your attention, and that choice creates your emotional reality. And finally, change your language. The words you use don't just describe your experience, they create it. If you say, I'm exhausted, I'm overwhelmed, I can't do this, your brain believes you. But if you say, I'm ready, I'm resourceful, I'm just getting started, your brain believes that too. One set of words shuts you down, the other ignites you. Every time you speak, you're either wiring yourself for weakness or wiring yourself for strength. The moment you combine these three, your physiology, your focus, and your language, you create a new state instantly. And when your state shifts, so does your action. Suddenly, the things that felt impossible start to feel inevitable. You pick up the phone, you have that conversation, you take that step. Because your state no longer matches hesitation. It matches execution. When you control your state, you control your destiny. That's the difference between those who make things happen and those who keep waiting for the right time. The people who act don't have more time or more talent. They have more access to their own energy. They know how to ignite themselves on demand. They know how to move even when fear whispers, how to take the first step when doubt screams louder than certainty. And that's the moment everything changes, when you stop waiting for motivation and start creating it. Because the truth is, when you master your state, you master your emotions. When you master your emotions, you master your actions. And when you master your actions, you take control of your entire life. The biggest reason people don't take action isn't because they're lazy. It's because they're trapped in a story that tells them why they can't, why it's not the right time, why they're not ready yet. Every single one of us has a story we tell ourselves to justify staying where we are. And those stories feel real because we've repeated them so many times that they've become part of our identity. I'm not confident enough. I don't have the money. I don't have the experience. I've failed before. Those aren't facts. They're patterns. They're old mental tapes playing in your mind. And until you change the story, you'll keep living the same chapter of your life. Here's what most people don't realize. Your story is either your prison or your power. The words you use to describe your life shape the limits of what's possible for you. If your story is about why you can't, you'll find evidence for that everywhere. If your story is about why you must, your mind starts finding ways to make it happen. Whatever story you keep feeding grows stronger. So the question is, which one have you been feeding? Think about it. When you say, I'm just not that type of person, what you're really doing is building a wall around yourself. You're defining who you are based on your past instead of your potential. You're living by old experiences instead of new decisions. And that story becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You say you're not disciplined, so you don't act disciplined. You say you're not confident, so you avoid the situations that could build your confidence. You say you're not good enough, and your brain starts collecting proof that it's true. It's a loop. And the only way to break that loop is to break the story. You've got to get honest with yourself. What's the story you've been telling that's keeping you small? What's the excuse that sounds so convincing you've started to believe it's reality? Because once you identify it, you can see it for what it really is, a protective mechanism. The story you tell yourself is designed to protect you from pain, from disappointment, from failure. But here's the truth. It doesn't protect you, it imprisons you. It keeps you safe, but it also keeps you stuck. If you want to take action, you have to destroy the old narrative and write a new one that gives you power instead of taking it away. Stop saying, I can't. Start saying, I haven't yet. Stop saying, that's just who I am. Start saying, that's who I used to be. Language matters. Identity matters. The words you use about yourself become the boundaries of your behavior. Change the words and you'll change the way you act. When you tell yourself a new story, one that says, I'm the kind of person who follows through. I'm the kind of person who gets results. I'm the kind of person who moves no matter what. Your mind starts looking for ways to stay consistent with that identity. Because once your identity shifts, your behavior automatically aligns. You don't have to force yourself anymore. You simply act in accordance with who you believe you are. But make no mistake, the old story won't die quietly. It'll fight for survival. It'll whisper in your ear when things get tough. It'll tell you, see, you're doing it again. You always quit. You'll never change. That voice is not the truth. That's the echo of who you used to be. And you have to drown it out with a stronger voice, the voice of your new story. You have to interrupt that pattern every time it shows up. Replace it with something more powerful, more intentional, more aligned with where you're going. There's a moment in every transformation when you stop negotiating with your excuses and decide to become the version of yourself you've been avoiding. That's when everything shifts. Because suddenly, your new story isn't just words. It's a command to your subconscious. It's a declaration. It says, this is who I am now. And your actions begin to match that story automatically. The truth is, life will always test your story. When things go wrong, when you face resistance, when you're tired or afraid, that's when the old narrative tries to sneak back in. But if you've built your new story strong enough, you won't collapse under pressure. You'll rise through it. Because the story you live by becomes the standard you refuse to drop below. So if you want to force yourself to take action, stop waiting for the perfect mindset. Stop waiting for the right time. Start rewriting the story that's been running your life. Because when you change your story, you change your identity. When you change your identity, you change your behavior. And when you change your behavior, you change everything. Let me tell you something. You don't get what you want in life, you get what you must to have. That's the difference between people who talk about changing and people who actually do. Everyone wants some more money, more health, more happiness, more success. But for most people, those are preferences, not priorities. They're things we hope for when it's convenient, not standards we live by when it's uncomfortable. And until you raise your standards, you'll keep living at the level you tolerate. When you make something a must, you stop negotiating with yourself. You stop giving energy to excuses and you start finding a way. The people who transform their lives don't have fewer challenges. They just have higher standards. They refuse to settle for less than they're capable of. They've decided that average is no longer acceptable. And that decision changes everything. But raising your standards isn't about shouting affirmations or making a New Year's resolution you'll forget in a week. It's about identity. It's about looking yourself in the mirror and saying, this is who I am now. This is the level I play at. This is what I demand from myself every single day. Once that identity shifts, your habits have no choice but to follow, because your behavior always matches your belief about who you are. You can't say, I'm committed to growth, and keep doing the things that keep you small. You can't say, I'm disciplined and keep breaking promises to yourself. The universe doesn't respond to what you say you want. It responds to what you consistently do. And what you consistently do is a reflection of what you believe you deserve. So if you want to take control of your life, you've got to stop wishing for change and start demanding it from yourself. The secret is to back your standards with rituals. Standards without rituals are just words. They sound nice, but they don't change your life. You can't say you're committed to health and skip your workouts. You can't say you're focused on growth and never pick up a book or invest in yourself. Rituals are where standards come to life. They're the proof of your commitment. Every morning you need to do something that reminds your mind who's in charge. Something that says, I decide how I feel today. I decide what gets my energy. It could be a workout, meditation, journaling, visualizing your goals, anything that sets your emotional tone and builds momentum. Because when you stack enough small, consistent rituals, they become the foundation of unstoppable action. Discipline isn't about being perfect. It's about being consistent when you don't feel like it. Anyone can take action when it's easy. What defines your standard is what you do when it's not. The days you're tired, the moments you doubt yourself, the times you feel like you're getting nowhere. That's when your true standard reveals itself, because your life doesn't rise to the level of your motivation. It rises to the level of your rituals. Some people wait for inspiration to act. Others act until inspiration shows up. That's the difference between those who live by emotion and those who live by standard. You can't depend on moods. They're temporary. You need systems, routines that anchor you when your feelings try to pull you off course. The moment you create structure, you create certainty. And certainty builds confidence. When you know that no matter what's happening, no matter how chaotic the world feels, you'll show up for yourself. You develop a deep trust. That trust turns into momentum. And momentum is what carries you through resistance. Once you've built enough of it, you don't have to push yourself as hard anymore. The current of your standards pulls you forward. But it all starts with a decision. The decision to make your goals non-negotiable, to stop settling for good enough, to say, I will not live below my potential another day. Because the moment you make that decision, life begins to shift. You start making choices that align with your future instead of your fears. You stop reacting and start creating. If you look at anyone who's achieved greatness in any area, you'll see the same pattern. They all had moments when they drew a line in the sand and said, never again. Never again will I let my fears control me. Never again will I break my word to myself. Never again will I live like my dreams don't matter. That's when they raised their standard and their entire world changed. So ask yourself right now, what have you been tolerating? What areas of your life have you accepted as just the way things are? Because nothing changes until you stop accepting less. The day you raise your standard and back it with daily rituals is the day your life transforms. And when you make that shift, when your actions match your highest standards, you stop trying to take control of your life and start living like you already own it. Momentum is everything. Once you get moving, everything changes. The hardest part of taking action is the beginning, that first push. Because in the beginning, there's no proof it's working. There's no momentum yet, just resistance. But once you start, even with a tiny step, you shift the energy. That single act, sending the email, making the call, showing up at the gym, speaking up when you normally stay quiet, begins to build motion. And motion creates momentum. Momentum creates confidence. And confidence fuels even more action. That's how you break out of paralysis. That's how you build unstoppable drive. You've got to understand, momentum is not something that shows up when life feels perfect. It's something you create by refusing to stay still. The longer you wait, the heavier your hesitation becomes. It's like pushing a boulder. In the beginning, it feels impossible. It doesn't move. You doubt your strength. But if you keep pushing inch by inch, suddenly it begins to roll. Once it moves even a little, it gets easier. Eventually, it's rolling so fast that it takes effort just to slow it down. That's the power of momentum. Once you've built it, it carries you. Most people never experience that because they quit before they get to that point. They take one or two steps, don't see instant results, and tell themselves it's not working. They stop. What they don't realize is that the pain, the effort, the grind, that's the build up. That's the resistance being broken. Every step you take, even the small ones, are stacking energy behind the scenes. You might not see it right away, but that's how you're building the momentum that's going to make success feel inevitable later. The trick is to start where you are. Don't wait for perfect timing, perfect energy, perfect clarity. Start now, start messy, start uncertain, start small. But I start because you can't steer a parked car. You can't adjust your direction if you never move. The power is in movement. Once you move, opportunities start showing up, energy starts flowing, and your brain starts seeing possibilities that didn't exist before. And here's the key: never try to build momentum alone. Success is a team sport. You need people around you who raise your standard, who remind you who you are when you forget, who won't let you shrink back into your comfort zone. The people you surround yourself with shape your momentum more than your motivation ever will. If you spend your time with people who settle, who complain, who justify their excuses, you'll start lowering your energy to match theirs. But if you're surrounded by people who are hungry driven and demanding more from life, that energy becomes contagious. You've got to build an environment where action is normal, where effort is celebrated, where following through is expected. When you're around that kind of energy, you don't have to force yourself anymore. You're pulled into alignment with the people around you. It becomes your new standard. That's why accountability is so powerful, because it removes the option of hiding. When you know someone's watching, when someone's expecting you to deliver, you show up differently. You play bigger, you push harder. Find someone who won't let you off the hook, someone who sees your potential and refuses to let you settle for less. Because we all have blind spots. We all have moments when we want to give up, when we start telling ourselves little lies like, it's not that bad, or I've done enough. Accountability is what keeps you honest when your emotions try to talk you out of greatness. And remember this: momentum isn't built in big leaps. It's built in small, consistent actions. The gym session you didn't skip, the extra 5 minutes you gave, the phone call you made even though you were nervous. Those moments look small, but they stack up, they compound, and one day you'll look back and realize that the life you're living was built one small push at a time. There's no secret formula. It's consistency multiplied by time. You don't need to feel like it. You just need to move, because action creates emotion. The moment you move, your energy shifts, your focus sharpens, your belief grows, and once that wheel starts turning, it's almost impossible to stop it. That's why the most successful people aren't the smartest or the luckiest. They're the ones who stayed in motion long enough for momentum to take over. They learned to trust the process even when it was slow, to stay consistent even when it was quiet, to surround themselves with people who refuse to let them settle. Because when you build momentum and combine it with accountability, you don't have to push anymore. You're pulled by your purpose. And when that happens, you become unstoppable. Let me tell you something. The mind is the most powerful tool you will ever have, and yet most people use it against themselves every single day. They use it to replay their fears, to relive their failures, to imagine the worst case scenario over and over again. And they wonder why they feel stuck, why they can't move forward, why they can't take action. It's because they're visualizing the wrong future. They're seeing what they don't want instead of what they do want. The human brain doesn't know the difference between something you vividly imagine and something you've actually experienced. That's how powerful your mind is. If you keep imagining yourself failing, hesitating, holding back, your brain records that as truth. Yeah. It conditions you to expect it, to feel it, to live it. But if you start using that same imagination to picture success, to see yourself winning, to feel the emotion of having already achieved it, everything begins to change. Before any great athlete steps into the arena, they've already played the game 1,000 times in their mind. They felt the movement, the energy, the victory before it's real. That's not fantasy. That's training the mind to expect success. And when your mind expects success, your body follows. Because what you hold in your mind consistently, you will eventually hold in your hands. You've got to see it before you can seize it. You've got to feel it before you can live it. Don't wait for the world to show you proof that your dream is possible. Or you create that proof by visualizing it so clearly that it becomes undeniable. Because the moment your brain believes it's real, it starts finding ways to make it real. Close your eyes for a second and imagine the life you want. Not in vague terms, get specific. Feel it. See the colors, hear the sounds. Feel what it's like to wake up every morning excited about your day. See yourself walking with purpose, speaking with confidence, doing things you've been afraid to do. That's not make-believe. That's you creating your future in advance. And the stronger you can feel that reality, the more your mind starts aligning your behavior with it. You see, your mind is like a GPS. It needs a clear destination. If you don't give it one, it'll just circle around confusion and fear. Most people focus on what they don't want. I don't want to fail. I don't want to be broke. I don't want to be alone. And guess what? The brain doesn't hear the word don't. It focuses on the image that follows. So when you say, I don't want to fail, your brain locks onto the image of failure. You're unintentionally programming yourself to attract exactly what you're trying to avoid. The secret is to flip the focus, see what you don't want, speak it, feel it, live it. Tell your mind, this is who I am becoming, this is where I'm going, because your nervous system responds to certainty. The clearer your vision, the stronger your confidence. The stronger your confidence, the faster you act, and action, that's what turns imagination into reality. Every time you visualize, don't just see the outcome, feel the emotion, feel the pride of following through, the gratitude of seeing your efforts pay off, the joy of knowing you didn't quit when it was hard. The more you can anchor that feeling in your body, the more your brain starts craving it. You start to need to take action because you've already experienced the reward emotionally. Most people lie backward. They think that they'll feel successful once they've achieved success. But the truth is, you've got to feel it ultra first. You've got to live in that emotional state now. Because when you do, you attract opportunities, ideas, and people that match that vibration. You start to act like the person you want to become, and the world begins to respond. This isn't about pretending everything's perfect. It's about conditioning your nervous system to expect more from life. When you wake up and visualize what you want with energy, clarity, and emotion, you prime your brain to look for it throughout the day. It starts noticing doors that were always there but hidden by fear. It starts connecting the dots faster. It starts turning what once felt impossible into something inevitable. And the more you practice this, the more natural it becomes. It's like building a muscle. At first, it feels awkward or forced, but soon your mind starts doing it automatically. You begin to see possibility where you used to see problems. You begin to expect momentum instead of waiting for motivation, and that expectation becomes self-fulfilling. So stop using your imagination to feed your fears. Use it to fuel your future. Train your brain to live in the vision of who you're becoming, not the memory of who you were. Because when you can see it, feel it, believe it, and embody it every single day, taking action stops being a choice. It becomes who you are.